Okay, so welcome back to the MIT AWS on-ramp. And today we're going to look at adding a database into our mix so that we can do the full three-tier stack. And in this case, what we're going to do is we're going to add in the Dynamo database that AWS provides. And this is a fairly easy database to use. So what we're going to need to change is we're going to need to change the software. We're going to get our web server now to, instead of just respond itself, to be able to write data to the Dynamo database. So we're going to create a new Docker image that will have this capability. And as before, we're going to, from our machine, we're going to load the Docker image into Docker Hub. And then we're going to move the image onto an elastic cloud that we're going to set up. And we're going to provide a gateway to our virtual private cloud. So AWS basically encourages you to run a virtual private cloud. And so we need an API gateway, and then that can pass any HTTP incoming requests onto the load balancer and onto our machines. And the machine will then create a data record to run right to the DynamoDB. So that's basically what we're going to do. Let's take a brief look at the database itself. So here, take a look first. We notice that we're hitting a gateway. So this is an AWS gateway that's been set up. And here we're responding with, let me just squish this down a little bit. Yeah, there you go. So I'm hitting this and I'm making a request to a root called people, and that responds with these items. If I just hit the database, it just says hello Dynamo. And if we hit the database but add some data, so here I'm going to add a fifth record, and so we need to hit the root add, and I'm going to provide a fifth record, and this is going to be for Fred, and I'm going to give Fred's username, fred@mit.edu, and I do that, and it responds just with a positive response. It'll give an error if there's an error there. But now we can go back and let's hit the people again, and we'll see we've added a new record. So now I've got 5 records, and we should be able to see Fred there. Yep, there's Fred. These are just being given in alphabetical order. You see we could sort by ID, but I'm just writing these out. So there's our 5th record. So, okay, let's go take a look at the code. And so the code here, let's look first at, let me get this resized. Okay, first let's take a look at the service. Okay, so this is what we're going to package up into Docker, and these are our routes. We're going to use Node Express, the Express package for Node, which is the web server. We've seen that before. Now, to access the database, we're going to use AWS-CDK, and then we just set up the Express app, and we're going to need to provide credentials. So this is how we're hitting this via our web server, say, and so that's going to need to provide credentials to the database. So I have a credentials file here, and inside that I've got, I guess I'll show you and delete this. I've got my ID access key and my secret access key, and I specify the region. Okay, and then we set up our routes. So the default route, I just say hello Dynamo, nothing special there. Now the people, let's see the end one here. So this is going to, we need to hit the database. So we need to set up this .client, new DynamoDB, and we can specify the API version that we're using of the SDK, but this will allow us to talk to the DynamoDB. So in people, we do a scan and we pass in my parameters, which is the name of the table. Let's have a look at my parameters. That's up the top here. I set up my parameters with the table name people, which I set up. So I set up separately in the Dynamo Database the structure. We could set it up programmatically, but let's just set it up by hand first, and then we're just going to add records. So people, now we do a scan, and if we're successful, we get data back, and we send that back in our response to the web page, okay, to our browser. Okay, so that's that. Now to add, we're still going to use a get, but we're going to add 3 fields, an ID, a name, and an email. Now we pick those out of the request parameter and set up an item here that we can then write. So we set up our Dynamo parameters, dyn_params, table name, item, and now we do a put. And if everything's successful, we don't get any data back actually. It sends nothing back, but we don't get an error response message. So that's our service. Now we need to package it up into, we'll create a Docker image. So we've been through those steps of creating the Docker image. We're going to do a Docker build. And notice by hand, I'm copying the credentials in. They would get copied anyway, but I just want to make that explicit that you need that. So this is in the Docker file. So now we can build that and we can push the image up to Docker Hub. So that's what I've done, and we've called the image JRW Tango and /Dynamo5. Okay, so that's that. And now we need to take a look at what do we need to do in Dynamo. Okay, so looking at, this is our TypeScript file. So this is under lib. So remember how we set up, go back and take a look how we set up our project. We need to do a CDK init and a CDK init app -- language equals TypeScript, and that'll create this directory structure. And inside that, inside lib, we're just going to program against this here. So I'm going to set up the class Dynamo stack that inherits from, or rather extends the stack, and we need to put in our libraries. So we need to add the CDK, obviously. We're going to add AWS EC2. We're going to set up an Elastic Cloud, ECS, and we're going to need an Elastic Cloud load balancing, AWS Elastic Cloud load balancing. Now make sure that you get all the latest libraries. I'm using the libraries that are 0.25.2. So 0.25.2. All these libraries are that. So if I look in my package.json, you'll see the dependencies here. They're all 0.25.2. So notice how this is a caret up and then the name. So these will get added when you do an npm install. So let's suppose I'm doing the AWS, well, I need to do at AWS-CDK /AWS. Let's do the ECS one. And now to add, we need to do the @ sign, and we need to do the up caret, and then we can put 0.25.2 as it is in this case. Okay, and then obviously hit return, which I've done already, so I'm not going to repeat it, but that's that. Okay, so that's basically it. We need to, let's go back to our TypeScript. We need now to, as before, set up the virtual private network. We're going to set up an ECS cluster. And our maximum capacity is going to be this. We're going to choose T2 micros. So this is exactly the same as before that we did when we were setting up a web server. Dynamo task definition. So we just set that up. Now we need our container and we need to specify where the image comes from. So the image comes from Docker Hub and GRW Tango Dynamo 5. So that's the key one there. We're loading up a new image. Port mappings again 3000, task definition, etc. And external load balancer, and set up the external listener, the gateway. So this is very straightforward. Basically here, although you see the word Dynamo, we don't do anything with the Dynamo database here. It's all done in the web server, which is packaged up into a Docker image. Okay, so the only connection here in setting up is we need to specify the Docker image now here that's going to be gotten from Docker Hub. Okay, so basically that's it. I'll put this up on the GitHub so that you can look at it. But we've basically now done a full 3-tier application going from browser to web server and to a database. Okay, so thank you for watching and good luck with Amazon Web Services. I hope you enjoy.